However, looks like it's working fine, and assume that everybody is going to be able to hear me just fine. I'm assuming Kirk will let me know, and Eddie. All right, folks. I am going to try using gestures along with the presentation, and I believe it's something like this. So we'll see how well that works. But anyway, welcome to the session on negotiating multiple offer situations. My name is Patrick Lynch. I am in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm the state managing broker for Illinois. And just a little bit of background about myself. I've been in real estate in various capacities for about 15 years now. I'm an investor, developer. I've done commercial real estate, some residential real estate. I also have a background in architectural history, so I've done some historic preservation work. But all of that, the aspect that I like the best is getting to know my clients and understanding their wants and needs, and also negotiating. So when I had the opportunity to present on this topic, I jumped at it. A few housekeeping items I'd like to go over real quick. If you could hold your questions to the end, I promise to stay as long as needed for anybody's questions. I allocated some time after this, so I will promise to answer all questions. However, if, as any of you know, if you know me, I have this tendency to go off on tangents, and if I have too many squirrel moments, it's not a good thing. Trust me, you do not want me to have a squirrel moment. Also, I try to use terminology that applies to the entire country. However, there are terms that I'll use throughout the presentation that may be specific to the Illinois industry or the Chicago industry. Wherever possible, I try to use general terms that would work for your marketplace. As always, you should just default to the customary terms in your marketplace. And if you have any questions about specific terms that I use, just let me know, and I'm sure I can help you apply it to specific situations that you find yourself in, or in the future that you may find yourself in. And then lastly, I try to focus specifically on negotiating multiple offers from the perspective of the buyer's agent. Okay, there are certain nuances to negotiating multiple offers that apply to the listing agent, and I'm happy to do another session on the same topic from the listing agent's perspective, or even in general a negotiating strategy session. But for the sake of focusing on a particular aspect of negotiating multiple offers, I chose to do from the buyer's agent's perspective, and I think as we move forward, you'll begin to understand why I did that. So with that, let's begin. Why am I talking about negotiating in the realm of multiple offers? Well, one, because I love to negotiate. Anyone that knows me knows that I negotiate everything. Friends either roll their eyes or they employ my skills whenever they see fit. So, as a general overview, negotiating is a skill. In fact, it's an art form, I would go as far as to say. And real estate is one of the last bastions where you can negotiate. There are very few instances in American society where we have a chance to negotiate. We can negotiate the price of cars, of appliances, and real estate. In other cultures, in other countries, negotiating is a part of everyday life. That's not the case in the United States. As a result, vast majority of Americans hate to negotiate, or if they do negotiate, they do it poorly. Now, what this does is that it creates an opportunity for you with your clients to position yourself as the person that they need to go to solve their problems. It positions yourself to be irreplaceable. It allows you to shine in the eyes of your client, and it reinforces that trusted advisor role that is so crucial to endear you to your clients. The idea is to make yourself irreplaceable. You have the opportunity to engage your client that Trulia or Zillow or Redfin or any other aggregator out there cannot do. So this is your opportunity. It's the golden opportunity for you to be, that value add to your client that they need, and sometimes they don't realize they need it. This is an opportunity for you to reinforce that. So, in my view, in my experience, that there are certain stages, if you will, certain aspects, certain components to negotiating. Okay, we'll cover during this session the due diligence involved. The sleuthing, the uncovering of facts, of details from all aspects that will allow you to build your arsenal, to build the toolbox of information that you'll need for the negotiation itself. Okay. The next part of this of the negotiation process is preparing the offer. Okay. What goes into that preparation? What documents? What details? Those things are crucial to help you again build that arsenal. And then the next part is actually presenting the offer. What do you say? How do you present it? What do you not say? Those types of things are really, really important in presenting the strongest case possible in any offer, but more specifically in crucially in a multiple offer situation. And then lastly, I'll discuss my experience and my love of the secret weapon, the escalation clause. Many of you in the room have probably heard of it, that you've even used it, but I know some of you have not. The escalation clause is your secret weapon. It is crucial in coming out victorious in a bidding war, in a multiple offer situation. So, due diligence, right? In other words, your information gathering. What you're looking for is the information that is going to help you build your arsenal, because you're gathering this information for a purpose. First thing you need to do is you need to understand the current market conditions, okay, specific to your marketplace, meaning the seasonality. Are you in the spring market, the summer market, the winter or the fall market? If you're in a part of the country that doesn't have seasonality, then then you take that into account. If you are in a part of the country that has seasonality, in the Chicago area, the spring market and the fall markets are the strongest too. The winter market, as everybody would imagine, is the slowest time of the year, and summer is not as slow as winter, but it slows down. Knowing the seasonality is important to formulating your strategy. Next, what are the general inventory levels? If the inventory is low, that's going to impact the way you negotiate on a particular property that your clients wind up liking. Demand for the properties in your client's desired location. If your client has a specific town or a neighborhood that they want to be, and this is non-negotiable, okay, what's the demand in those places? And then what's the price trend in the last 6, 9, 12 months? If the trend has been an increase in price in the last 6 to 9 months, you need to know that. If it's been flat, you need to know that as well. Okay, so next, you need to determine the seller's motivations. Okay? Meaning, do they have a preferred closing date? That would help in understanding their needs and your client's needs. Trying to merge your commonalities, merge a way that you can create a meeting of the minds. Do they have emotional ties to the property? It's important. If they have, if they've raised all of the kids in the home, they are going to be, they're going to have a certain emotional state of mind throughout the process. That's something you should keep in mind. And do they have any sensitivities or allegiances? For example, if they own a historic home and your clients want to buy the house and tear it down, that's probably not something that you're going to bring up during a negotiation if these folks absolutely love historic properties. Allegiances. As you're walking through the house, you notice that that the owners went to your client's alma mater. That's something to pick up. If they went to the same school, the same college, that might be something. That might be a tool, or a poker card that you can use later in the negotiation. Anything that's going to help you build your case. Next, need to assess the competition. What I found to be the best way to do this is to pick the brain of the listing agent. Now, obviously, assessing this, understanding the seller's needs and assessing the competition are information that will come from the listing agent. What do I mean by assessing the competition? Well, casually find out how many showings they've had. Have they had any second showings? Don't want to necessarily come out right away and very forthright and ask, but there are ways to discover this information that's rather nonchalant. How many offers do they have? Do they have any? If so, how many do they have? That'll impact the offer that you put forward at the point in time that your clients decide to do that. Also, are all offers presented by other agents? Now, ideally, and according to ethical standards, a listing agent should not take into account whether or not an offer is presented by another agent. However, I can tell you that the reality is that some agents do. You need to know, who you're up against. If two of the offers are presented by agents and one is a member of the public, that's something that you should take into account as you move forward through the process of deciding on whether or not you're going to present an offer, and then the tactics that you use when you do present that offer. Next, okay, I wanted to just mention a side note on posturing. Definition of posturing basically says that the behavior or speech that is intended to attract attention or to make people believe something is not true. Okay, it's a valid and valuable tactic. If the listing agent is telling you, "Oh, we've had, it's been on the market for 2 days, and you have, and there's 3-second showings," that's something to keep in mind. Okay, you can use it yourself, and it can be used on you. The point is that take it with a grain of salt, give it its proper weight, but know that the tactic is valid and is used from time to time. Okay, so probably most important of all of this is to know your client. Are they bold or timid? Are they risk takers? Are they risk averse? Are they emotionally invested in the process, or they kind of have this laissez-faire, hands-off, it is what it is situation? Have you just started the search, or have you folks been looking a while? If this subject house is one of 15 or 20 that you've already looked at, that will paint a certain picture, rather than this is the first outing and this is the first house that they've looked at, and they aren't expecting to buy something for another year. Okay? Something to keep in mind as you go through this process. And do they have wants and needs that are so specific that their options are limited? Meaning, they want a house that faces east. They want 4 bedrooms on one level. They want a certain size piece of property. They want a house built before 1920, but not before 1920, but only in a certain style. That will affect the number of potential properties that they'll be able to see, and the number of properties that they could ever hope to attain. Something, again, to keep in mind. To continue on that fact-finding, information gathering on your clients. Know their financial situation. You don't need to know their income level, or how much money they have in liquid assets, or their stock positions. But in getting to know them, you should have you should try to get a good sense of where they stand. I've always tried to do that in a very casual way. In spending time with your clients, and especially having that initial consultation with them, you get a sense for their financial position. Probably most importantly is to understand how much liquid they have for a down payment. Do they have a tolerance for some type of decorating, renovation, or construction project? That's helpful in knowing, because if they have an issue with a major reconstruction project, then you know that, and you'll plan accordingly. And then lastly, do they have a sense of urgency? School's starting and they need to be in by August, or their wedding is planned for April, so they want the purchase to take place prior to that or after that, or are they going on vacation? And any number of these things can create a sense of urgency, and it's information that's crucial for you as the keeper of the information, if you will, to have, so that you can manage the negotiation and the offer process effectively. Now, next we have the preparing of the offer. What you need to do first and foremost as you're going into this process is to manage your client's expectations. Now, the best way to do that is to take the time to review and discuss all of the offer terms. That there's the price, there's the earnest money deposit, and when that, the amount of that, and when that money is due. The attorney review period. How long is the typical attorney review period? How long is the typical inspection contingency? Explain to them the mortgage contingency, what the typical terms are, and the length of that mortgage contingency, and explain to them the contingency that contingencies keep them from being on the hook before they're ready, willing, and able to be on the hook. Closing date, that's important to know when they're hoping to close, when they can or cannot close, and then lastly, all the personal property that is included or excluded in the sale. Next, discuss the list price and the value of the property. Now you're talking with them and you're discussing the current list price of the particular house and the value that seems to be in place at that given point in time. This is where your expertise comes in. If you're in a situation where they've seen 10 or 15 houses, they're starting to get a sense for where the values are and their comfort level with what the trends are. If you're early in the process, you'll need to step in and provide that information so that they can start having an understanding of what's about to happen. Okay. Now, a lot of what I'm discussing can be applied to general offers on properties and not necessarily a multiple offer situation. However, all of these things that I've discussed so far are crucial when you're entering into a multiple offer situation, and I'll explain why as we go forward. What I found is that more time you spend with your client explaining and reassuring them in this type of a situation, the better. So, with that, you want to prepare them for a competitive situation. Let them know that that in all likelihood, if you decide to move forward with an offer, there are going to be other people that are going to be involved. Especially if you've determined that the house has had 15 showings and 3 second showings, and it's only been on the market for a day or two. That's clearly evidence that there's going to be a competitive situation. Discuss possible scenarios with them. Prepare them for what to be happening or what you expect. The sellers can ask for highest and best by an X period of time. They can go with one offer, but then ask for a second contract as backup. The important thing is, and I found that it's best if you discuss the possible scenarios so that if you find yourself in one of those situations, one, you look like a rock star because you've already prepared them, and two, you are not blindsided by the situation, and you can go according to plan, if you will. This is important. discuss the price range that they're willing to pay. With all of the research that you've done, the experience, the exposure that they've been given in seeing properties, or the conversations you've had with them. Okay, at this point in the conversation, they're starting to formulate in their minds the price that they're willing to pay, that they think they're going to wind up paying. And the important thing here is to discuss a price range. Okay, and this is really important. You want to avoid that proverbial line in the sand. What does that mean? That means don't let them come up with one particular price, a threshold price. Talk in price ranges so that they have an idea, that they want to be in somewhere in that price range. If they're close to it, they're okay with it. If they draw the line in the sand and you find yourself in a situation where it's likely that you're going to go $1,000 or $2,000 above it, they've created that line in the sand, and it's going to be difficult for you to get them over that line. Because in the grand scheme of things, as we all know, $1,000 more than what their arbitrary number is not a deal breaker in most situations if the client's been prepared. That's not to say that gives you liberty to spend that, but if you keep them from painting themselves into a corner mentally, it allows them to go a little bit further than they might have allowed you to go. I hope that makes sense. Next, have your ducks in a row. What do I mean by that? That means that in a multiple offer situation, you have one opportunity to present your best case, and hiccups and mess ups, while they might be tolerated in a single offer situation, could knock you out of the game in a multiple offer situation. So, you want to have your contract completed with no ambiguities, no blanks left on the contract. Everything is crystal clear on what your offer is. Have a pre-approval letter. I've gone as far as to have my client provide a copy of their bank statement with their account number redacted, of course, showing that they have the down payment in their account and at their disposal. Have all the disclosures signed, especially if there's an issue on any of the disclosures. Have them signed and include them in your offer. And lastly, either an addendum to the contract or in the body of the email that you write that contains the attachments of the documents that are listed above, the details of the offer that you're providing. Now, depending on what your marketplace dictates, your marketplace contract might have an addendum that you can include. Or, in our marketplace, in a multiple offer situation, it's customary to include in the body of the email. So whatever is most appropriate for your marketplace is the tactic that you should use here. You don't want to do something out of the ordinary that might either confuse the listing agent or confuse the seller, or let them think that that you're not legitimate. Next, presenting the offer. Okay, this is the moment in time where you're going to be presenting your case, and you have one opportunity to do it. Okay, all the steps prior to this are coming to light in why you've gone through it. Okay? You've amassed arsenal information, and you need to use it. Okay, the arrows in your quiver that you've accumulated, the tools in your toolbox, or the poker hand that you've created for yourself. Whatever analogy you want to use, right, this is the time that you need to gather that information in your mind and use it effectively, so that you create the best chance possible for your clients to prevail in this negotiation. One chance, folks. What I'd like to do now is to discuss, an example, or go through a scenario with you. And then this is, just to establish basic information so that I can then discuss with you specific scenarios in your presenting of an offer in a multiple offer situation. So basically, just to sum it, all right, the subject property is listed at $300,000. It's been on the market for 1 day. In your analysis, you've determined that the property value lies somewhere between $280,000 and $320,000. In your marketplace, in this marketplace, the typical earnest money deposit is between $5,000 and $10,000, 10% of the purchase price. Typical attorney review and inspection period is 5 business days. Typical closing, 60 days from acceptance. That's typical, so that you have an idea as I present these scenarios, how they differ from typical. So, with that in mind, if you were in a regular situation, sell the house, client likes it, they want to put in an offer, no one else is on the horizon, single offer situation. So you might go in at $250,000, 5% of the purchase price is earnest money, typical 5 business days for attorney review, 5 business days for your inspection, and your mortgage contingency. Okay, you promised to get a mortgage bought in 21 days for these terms, and closing 60 days from the acceptance. Okay, and then, as we know, what happens, right? You present that, and the volleyball game begins. And then what happens? They counter, and then you counter back. Maybe they counter again, and then you counter again. And as you know, sometimes the volleying can go back and forth. As long as the ball's in the air, there's a chance there's a meeting of the minds will ensue, right? You might not have that situation in a multiple offer situation. In fact, you won't. As I said, you have one chance in a multiple offer situation. Right? In many marketplaces, this is also known as presenting your highest and best, or your best and final. Whatever is the typical terminology that's used in your marketplace, when those words are conveyed to you before you present your offer, you have one shot, one bite at the apple, and that's it. So you have to put your best foot forward, and the only way you can do that is if you've done your homework, you've prepared, you understand your client's frame of mind, you understand the seller's needs, you understand the reality of the playing field at that moment in time. So, highest and best. This is a possible scenario offer that you would present in this multiple offer situation. The list price was $300,000. Okay, you're going full list price. Earnest money, 15 to 20%. You're increasing the earnest money. Why you're doing that? Because you want to present the offer in the strongest light possible, and because you've already had a conversation with your client that they're putting 20% down already. So the earnest money is just a demonstration of your good faith and your client's financial ability. It gets applied to the purchase anyway. So why not demonstrate the seriousness? Attorney review period, drop it to 2 business days. I've already done a general cursory inspection. Okay, if you can have a conversation with your client and they're comfortable in waiving that, so be it. Okay, the inspection, you can always have an inspection. And in the Chicago area and in Illinois in general, the inspection really is for information purposes only, as the ordinance is written. So if you can remove that contingency and strengthen your hand, knowing that you'll still do the inspection, why not? Mortgage contingency. This is a tricky one, but it's a great tactic. You waive the mortgage contingency. Okay, does that make it a cash offer? No, possibly. It doesn't have to be. Waiving your mortgage contingency doesn't preclude your client from getting a contract. Getting a mortgage. It just removes the mortgage contingency. In the standard contract in Illinois, okay, the contract still states that the property must appraise. Little known fact in Illinois, when you waive the mortgage contingency, the property still needs to appraise at the purchase price. Not sure if that's the case in other. Not sure if that's the case in other situations, in other parts of the country, in other marketplaces. But that just means that you need to really know what your standard contract states. And like I said, your client has the ability to get a mortgage anyway. They're just not making the purchase of the property contingent upon that mortgage. This is helpful only if your client has the ability to put the 20% down or 30% down. And again, goes back to the conversation you've had with them. Closing 30 days or ASAP. What that tells the listing agent and the seller is that you can close whenever they want to close. What you're doing is you're removing the closing date as a deal breaker from the table, from the equation. All right. You don't always know the exact date that the seller might want to close. They might want to close sooner. They might want to close later. If it doesn't matter to your client, let's not make it an issue and take that contention off the table. So, feeling pretty good now, right? Presented a pretty strong offer, full asking price. I mean, terms that are pretty amazing. What do you think? Did your clients prevail? Thank you for playing. No, they didn't. Why do you think that is? Because they were beaten by another offer. Well, what other offer could have been better than yours? Are you full asking price? Enter the escalation clause, folks. And I've used this many, many times in the past 12 months And years ago, I've used it as well when I know my clients have had no luck getting a house that they like, found a house, and wound up saying to me, under no circumstances do we want to lose this house. The escalation clause is that secret weapon. So let me explain. Do you like the little capital X there for explain? Anyway, so what an escalation clause says is that we offer to pay X price for the property. And if any of the other offers that you receive is higher than ours, our offer will automatically increase to a Y amount above that highest offer, but will not exceed Z price. And as you're reading this, sure, you're starting to realize how important having the preparatory conversation with your clients has become, because without that conversation, preparing them for a competitive situation and discussing with them concepts like this would scare your buyer clients. They would run. They would look at you and tell you you're crazy, that they're going to wind up paying so much more for the property, and they would lose faith and they would lose trust. That's why it's so important to have a conversation with them about being in a competitive situation and the possible scenarios that they might find themselves in. So, having explained what the escalation clause is, there are components to the escalation clause that protect your client, and each one of these components must be there. Okay, the highest and best price and terms. Okay, goes without saying, but you have to have that highest price, that price and those terms that you're presenting. You have to define the escalation increment. How much above are you willing to go? There's a threshold, a stopgap, if you will, a not to exceed price threshold. Okay, that prevents your client from paying way too much. It provides an opportunity for them to pay close to what they're hoping to get, but it prevents them from paying too much. And then some type of verification requirement. And I just used this last month, created this situation. There was an escalation clause used, and all that I did was I provided a copy of the other offer with the names and some of the details redacted as demonstration that I indeed received other offers. It's important to be able to have that verification. Can an agent fabricate? Sure, but it's a risky proposition, and if depending on the side that you're on, there's some peace of mind knowing that you have that proof that there were other offers, and that your escalation clause prevailed because of the price. So here's the escalation clause applied to the scenario that we talked about. As we know, list price was $300,000. In your escalation clause, you're proposing that to pay $302,000. That exact number is up to you and your client. Okay, could be 302, could be 305, completely up to you. You know that the value of the property is somewhere between 280 and 320, depending, right? So you're keeping that in mind. Your escalation increment could be 1,000, could be 2,000, could be 5,000. It's up to you on what you feel to be a strong enough number that falls within the tolerance and the comfort level of your client, and then the threshold amount, that not to exceed price. So in the passage below, you see it here. You're offering to pay $302,000 or $5,000 above the highest offer, the highest offer that they receive, but not to exceed $320,000. You can go, as I said, you can do this because you've already demonstrated, you presented your analysis that the house is worth up to $320,000, $325,000, whatever that number is. Okay, you've demonstrated that the value is there. So it's not as though that they're overpaying for the house. $5,000 above makes it compelling to the seller because that's an extra $5,000 above whatever the other offer was. Very few sellers are going to walk away from that. And then, the $302,000 is some token amount above the list price. Could you have gone in at $300,000 even, the list price? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. But again, keep in mind, in this situation, you have one chance. And if your clients wind up getting it for $302,000 or $320,000, doesn't really matter because you've already prepared them. They're happy to pay $320,000. You've already gotten them to that point. And at this point in time, they're engaged in the process. So I know it might feel a little foreign, but what this exercise demonstrates is how important it is to be able to put your best foot forward in one chance, because by not doing that, you lose out. My experience over the years has demonstrated that the more you talk to your clients, excuse me, the more you talk about the details of the situation with your clients and have that conversation with them, the more likely you are to frame a negotiation that will result in your clients prevailing. In closing, there are some takeaways that I think are necessary, and then I'll address your questions that you have here and take any additional questions. Communication is key. Having a conversation with the listing agent, picking their brain, having a conversation with your clients, understanding their tolerances and what their motivations are, and their comfort level and their level of sophistication and their financial depth. All of these things factor into how you're going to proceed. Prepare. You have to have your ducks in a row. If you falter in one area and the other offer is perfect, then you can possibly cost your client the house that they want. And then lastly, find some commonality between the buyer and seller and leverage it. So these are just selling tactics. I mean, think about it. We're chameleons if we're in sales. We figure out the commonality and then we kind of leverage it to help the buyer, the seller, and whichever person we're representing. That makes sense. And let's look at some questions here.
Patrick,
Yes, Lauren. I see you have a few questions here, so I'm happy to answer them. But go ahead.
I'm kind of looking at, I'm really grateful for all the information that you presented today. I wasn't really quite familiar with that acceleration clause, and I'll have to look and see if it's on our contracts in California. I'm dealing with multiple offers, but I'm representing the seller, and would really like to know how to respond. I have two offers. One's a VA offer asking the seller to pay for the closing costs, and one is the prices are not different. I mean, they're different, and I know how to deal with the price percentage and stuff, but don't really know exactly the protocol. I haven't had a lot of multiple offers in a while, and don't really know the protocol for that.
Sure.
How do you deal with that?
Sure. Great question. First off, it'd be very unlikely that an escalation clause would be embedded or included in a boilerplate contract. It's a tactic that's typically done outside of a boilerplate contract. I'd be very surprised if I found that, and if it is in a contract anywhere in any of our marketplaces, I'd love to know about that, and I'd love to review it. But
okay.
I would say it's not going to be part of a contract. That's why it's important to look at the specifics of your contract and determine if you need to provide a formal addendum, and your association might have a specific addendum that you can include and attach to your contract, or you can do so in the body of the email that you would send to them. A highest and best or a escalation clause should not be conveyed verbally. The volleying back and forth in a single offer situation, that in our marketplace typically takes place verbally, and then whatever the agreed upon terms get immortalized in a final revised contract that then gets executed. In a multiple offer situation, you don't want to do these things verbally, so it should be immortalized somewhere. As the seller,
wait, I have one quick question, Patrick, before you get to the seller.
Okay.
How does the buyer and myself know for sure what we're offering? I mean, we're offering more than the asking price, or a certain amount above, and everything what the other offers were possibly at, so that we know that they just didn't move us up to the 520 price in your example, or in your whatever the example was.
Well, that's why you need to ask for proof on. You need to ask for a copy of the other offer that they've received.
Okay,
so,
I didn't know you could do that. Okay, thanks.
Sure. Yeah, you can ask for a copy. Obviously, offers say, hey, you can white out the name, you can white out personal information, but a signed contract with the terms, should be presented as proof.
Okay, I think I could include that in my letter to the other agent, so they know that.
Now, you said you were in the multiple offer situation from the listing side. You're representing the seller, and you have two offers on the table right now. And one is a VA with your client paying for some of the closing costs, and then the other is a standard offer. Am I recounting the details accurately?
Sorry, I've got a dog barking in the background. One's a VA offer, not full price. The other offer is full price. They both have pretty much the same terms, except the VA offer wants the seller to pay closing costs, which we would try to add to the purchase price, I assume. But I just don't really know how to respond to each one of them.
Did you get them both pretty much at the same time, and have you responded to either one yet?
We got them both the same day. That was the day before yesterday, and the seller's been ill, so we're doing the deliberations today and doing a response today. Both parties know that offers came in the same day,
Yep.
and so we were telling them that there will be a counter offer coming.
Okay. How about if you and I talk one-on-one offline? I'm happy to walk you through it. Given that the scope of this presentation is from the buyer's agent perspective, I'd like to keep it focused on that, and you and I can talk offline. And if there's interest, I'm happy to do another presentation, but then cater this entire presentation from the listing agent's perspective. How's that sound?
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
You bet. Does anybody have any other questions? The key to, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jarrett.
When you put the escalation clause in play, how long is it written in there? How long your buyer is bound to that? Like if they've got multiple offers coming in, at some point your buyer might just be like, "The heck with it,"
Excellent question. That's something that you don't want to allow to hang out there. In a multiple offer situation, you've had a conversation with the listing agent who has stated to you that they've gotten a few offers and that they are requesting the highest and best by end of business tomorrow. Or okay. Jarrett asked. He asked, how long does the escalation clause, or your counter, your highest and best, if you will, how long does it hang out there? For how long is it good for? And my response is that typically the selling agent will let you know that they're asking for the highest and best by close of business tonight or close of business tomorrow, and that we'll be making a decision by noon following day or whatever that time frame is. If the listing agent does not offer that, then it behooves you to ask them when they're going to make a decision by, and then hold them to it, because you don't want this hanging out there. There's no way of knowing how many other offers they have out there that are becoming part of the multiple bid situation. They can posture, they can give you a number, but all you really need to know is that you have at least one other person that you're in competition with, and that they should offer you some type of deadline. Hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Alrighty. Any other questions? Well, we're coming up on the at the top of the hour. If anyone has any questions and you want to grab me one-on-one, feel free to do so. I'll hang out over in one of the chairs. I have about 45 minutes that I can just hang out and answer anyone's questions, and let me know if you're interested in me giving the similar presentation from the listing agent's perspective. I'm happy to do that. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you.
Great job, Patrick.